Most self-care routines fail because they demand you to become someone you're not. They set a standard that feels unattainable: be calmer, be happier, be perfect, and in doing so, they collapse under their own weight. The practice you're learning here works for the opposite reason. It embraces you exactly as you are. Tired. That's fine. Overwhelmed. That's okay. Angry. Welcome that too. The point isn't to change what you feel. The value lies in meeting those feelings differently. Within a week, you'll begin to notice patterns emerging. Perhaps Mondays always come with a spike of anxiety. Maybe the tightness in your chest shows up when you've gone too long without speaking to your father. Maybe that quiet sadness lingers every time a project ends. You don't need to fix these things in 2 minutes each morning. You're not here to repair yourself. You're here to collect data to build awareness. By the second week, something remarkable happens. Later in the day, when tension hits, a pause appears where there used to be none. You remember this is just a thought cloud. Suddenly, you're no longer reacting blindly. You're choosing your state of mind. And that choice has profound effects. Conversations improve because you're not dragging mental static into every interaction. Focus deepens because you're beginning from clarity, not chaos. Self-kindness grows because you're practicing non-judgment toward your own mind. Best of all, this isn't bound to a morning ritual. You can do a quick sweep anywhere, waiting in line before a tough conversation whenever you feel overwhelmed. This is what Seneca meant by the discipline of desire, learning to want what you already have, to be present with what is, while still reaching for what could be. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about standing firm within your own reality, no matter how messy. When you stop fleeing from your inner experience, it stops controlling you. A person who practices this daily for just 1 month becomes fundamentally different. They navigate life with steadiness instead of chaos. They develop trust in themselves to handle whatever arises. This sets the stage for the second habit: gratitude archaeology. Every fresh start, Seneca reminded us, is born from the ending of something else. Transformation isn't about stockpiling more good things. It's about uncovering the value that's already present but obscured by routine and expectation. The problem with most gratitude practices is that they're vague and repetitive. I'm grateful for my family, my home, my health. Of course, these matter deeply, but when repeated without depth, they lose their power. It's like answering "I'm fine" when someone asks how you're doing. Technically true, but empty of meaning. Gratitude archaeology changes that by turning you into an investigator of your own life. At some point during the day, anytime it comes to mind, you look for one precise moment that went well. Here's the rule: it cannot be big or expected. You're searching for subtle victories, fleeting kindnesses, quiet wins that usually slip past unnoticed. Maybe your coffee turned out perfectly without you needing to explain your order. Maybe your reflexes kicked in just in time to step out of a cyclist's path. Maybe you remembered to water your plants, found your keys on the first try, or caught the elevator without waiting. The Stoics practiced what they called the discipline of perspective, training themselves to see reality unfiltered by fear, habit, or assumption. Meanwhile, we are conditioned by modern life to scan constantly for flaws, dangers, and problems to solve. Gratitude archaeology flips that pattern. It teaches the mind to notice what's already working, what's already present, and what doesn't require fixing. This shift may feel small, but it's revolutionary. It retrains your awareness to search for light instead of shadows. And over time, those subtle sparks of recognition add up, reshaping not only how you see the world, but how you show up within it. That's the power of this second ritual in the Stoicism Breath journey. How you treat yourself sets the tone for how the world will treat you. If you shrink to fit into spaces where others would never stretch to welcome you, you are silently teaching the world that your worth is negotiable. From this moment forward, make a promise. Not to me, but to yourself, that you will no longer hand over your dignity for the comfort of others. If you're ready to step into your true worth, stay with me until the end of this journey. Each lesson builds upon the last, weaving together a code of strength and self-respect. Now let's begin with the first Stoic lesson. Quit over-explaining who you are. One of the quietest ways we lose our power is through constant justification, explaining our choices, our dreams, even our smallest decisions, as though we need permission to exist as we are. At first it feels courteous, maybe even thoughtful, but every time you over-explain, you give away a piece of your strength. Epictetus put it simply, if you wish to be a writer, write. Notice what he didn't say. He didn't tell you to explain your reasons until others approve. He didn't say your work becomes valid only after others validate it. The Stoics believed your actions should speak on your behalf. When you keep explaining, you invite others to question your intent, to poke holes in your conviction, to plant doubt in your mind. Often this habit comes from insecurity, the quiet belief that your decisions aren't valid until someone else stamps them with approval. But when you do that, you're essentially declaring, I cannot rely on my own judgment unless you confirm it. That's not clarity. That's surrender. Here's the truth, not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will agree. And that's perfectly fine. You are not responsible for managing other people's comprehension. If someone dislikes your direction, that is their burden to carry, not yours to solve. Every second spent trying to explain yourself to those who wouldn't even show up if you stumbled is time stolen from living your truth. Stoicism teaches us to focus only on what lies within our control. Opinions that's outside your grasp, your choices, your integrity, your actions, those are within your power. When you quit over-explaining, you are making a declaration, I believe in myself enough to move forward without approval. That's not arrogance, that's clarity. And clarity is magnetic. Think about people who radiate quiet confidence. They don't bombard others with endless justifications. They act. And because they act without pleading for understanding, they are taken seriously. Confidence isn't noise, it's the absence of self-betrayal. Picture yourself in a meeting. You present an idea and then launch into a storm of justifications, anticipating every possible objection. What signal does that send? Uncertainty. Now picture the same moment where you state your idea clearly, then stop. That pause speaks louder than any defense. That pause is conviction. Living this way requires grounding yourself in values. Define what matters to you. Choose based on those values. Then let your actions, not your explanations, speak. People may still judge. They may still misunderstand. But their judgments bounce off a self that is anchored in integrity. The next time you feel the urge to justify yourself, pause. Ask, do I truly need their understanding to proceed? If the answer is no, let silence carry the weight. Silence, when grounded in conviction, is louder than any argument. Seneca offered timeless advice. Spend time with those who uplift you, not those who always understand you. Because not everyone will understand you and they don't have to. What matters is that you understand yourself. The person who constantly explains hands away their worth. The person who acts without applause already holds importance, not because the world said so, but because they refuse to betray their own voice. This is where dignity begins. If you want to stop shrinking, start here. Cut back on explanations. Speak only when necessary. Stand by your actions without waiting for cheers. You will feel lighter, your presence will feel stronger, and your life will stop resembling a courtroom where you are forever on trial. Important people don't talk about being important. They live in a way that makes it undeniable. If you are ready to live like that, hold this truth close. You no longer need to explain your worth. You already are enough. Not everyone will understand you, and they don't have to. What matters most is that you understand yourself. The more you explain, the more you hand your worth over to someone else's approval. But when you act without waiting for applause, you already hold importance. Not because the crowd says so, but because you've stopped living for their opinions. If you never want to shrink again, begin here, cut back on explanations. Speak only when necessary, and let your actions stand strong on their own. You'll feel lighter, your presence sharper, your confidence undeniable. Here's the truth: important people don't talk about being important, they live in a way that makes it obvious. And that brings us to the second Stoic lesson: stop chasing to be seen. One of the quietest ways we diminish ourselves is by stretching too far for recognition. It happens in friendships. In love at work, we exhaust ourselves not for our own goals, but just to be noticed, chosen, or acknowledged. The painful reality is this: every time you chase someone's attention, you're silently declaring that their recognition holds more weight than your self-worth. And once you send that message, they believe it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul takes on the color of its thoughts." If your mind constantly spins around, how do I make them notice me? How do I prove I matter to them? Your behavior mirrors neediness, and neediness always reduces value. The truth is, authentic respect and genuine bonds cannot be forced. Think about it: if someone truly sees your value, they won't need prompting. They'll respond naturally. And if they don't, no amount of trying will change that, because they never saw your real worth to begin with. Chasing puts you in a dangerous psychological marketplace where your dignity becomes a commodity and someone else sets the terms of your significance. That's not strength, that's surrender. Here's the trap: sometimes they will respond. They'll text back, toss you a little praise, or give you crumbs of attention, but it never lasts. Because it wasn't built on genuine regard, it was built on your pursuit. And the moment you stop chasing, it fades, leaving you drained and reaching again. This cycle rewires your self-esteem, teaching you to measure your worth by how much notice you get, rather than by who you truly are. The Stoic response: don't run that race at all. Withdraw completely from the competition. If someone makes you feel like their time or attention must be earned through effort, that's already proof they don't see you as you deserve to be seen. Reflect for a moment: the people you admire most, are they desperate to be noticed? Or are they focused on their purpose, their principles, their growth? Because of that, attention finds them naturally. Admiration should never be the aim. It should be the side effect of living with integrity. So instead of asking, "How do I get them to notice me?" ask, "Do I even want recognition from someone who overlooks me until I perform?" Suddenly the answer becomes clear. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to grow, be content to be seen as foolish or misunderstood." In other words, be willing to be unseen or misjudged while you're building yourself. Because while the wrong people may overlook you, the right ones will notice without you lifting a finger. The truth is, the right people will notice you without you ever needing a spotlight. This doesn't mean shutting down or closing yourself off. It simply means you stop living as though your worth depends on applause. You can still engage, still care, still connect, but you no longer perform just to be seen. Because here's something crucial: people can always sense when you're trying too hard. Even if you mask it with humor, endless favors, or constant availability, the energy leaks through, and energy speaks louder than words. When you drop the act of seeking, something powerful shifts inside you. You stop surrendering your power. You move from "please see me" to "I know who I am and I won't shrink for visibility." And that's when the right people begin to notice without you lifting a finger. The irony: the very ones who once ignored you will suddenly wonder why you stopped chasing. That's when you realize attention is cheap. Respect, however, is priceless, and it's earned only when you refuse to beg for it. If you want to live as someone of true substance, remember this: importance isn't handed to you by someone else, it's claimed internally first. So quit the competition you were never meant to run. Let others race for approval if they must. You're headed toward a different destination. This leads us to the third Stoic lesson: master the quiet exit. Most people think strength means standing your ground, proving your point, or forcing respect. But the Stoics taught us a different kind of strength: the quiet dignity of walking away, without warning, without explanation, without needing anyone to understand. Here's the trap so many fall into: they linger in places where they are no longer valued. They stay in relationships, jobs, or circles hoping things will improve. They wait to finally be seen. They hold on because leaving feels like failure. But the truth is, remaining in a space that drains you isn't loyalty, it's self-abandonment. Seneca once said, "Keep company with those who make you better. Welcome those you can also uplift." Growth must flow both ways. If a bond doesn't sharpen you or raise your character, it's not worth preserving. Leaving isn't cold-hearted, it's self-preservation. And this is why the silent exit matters. When you warn people, "If this continues, I'll leave you," hand them a script. They'll promise delay or say just enough to make you stay. But soon the cycle begins again. Walking away quietly sends a different message. The decision is already made. You don't need agreement, applause, or validation. You've realized your energy is too sacred to waste explaining why peace matters more than their chaos. There's a rare strength in vanishing without drama. No begging, no last words, no performance of closure. You just go. Those who truly cared will reach out sincerely. Those who didn't, their silence tells you everything you need to know. Stoicism teaches us not to be ruled by what lies beyond our control. You can't force someone to respect you, you can't control how they treat you, but you can choose whether to remain in that space. And every time you walk away with quiet conviction, you're declaring something powerful. Your worth is not up for debate. The practice of the silent exit doesn't just change your circumstances, it reshapes you from the inside out. Every time you walk away from a space that no longer honors you, you're sending a message to yourself. My standards are mine to protect. I will not justify staying where I'm unseen. This is more than a gesture toward others. It's a declaration to your future self that you will never settle again. And let's be clear, this doesn't mean cutting people off impulsively or walking away at the first sign of difficulty. It means noticing patterns. When someone repeatedly shows you they don't value your presence, believe them. And when you believe them, you act not out of anger, but out of clarity. This principle reaches far beyond personal relationships. It applies to jobs, social circles, and any environment where you're consistently made to feel small. You don't need to broadcast your departure. You don't need to post a monologue online. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. You simply remove yourself and step into a space that welcomes your presence. Ironically, this creates a rare kind of power. People begin to realize you don't cling, you don't beg, you don't chase belonging, and paradoxically, that's what makes them value you more. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to not become like those who wronged you." In other words, don't match their energy, don't stoop to their level, rise above it by leaving entirely. So let this truth sink in. Every time you walk away from something below your standards, you're not losing, you're preserving the most valuable thing you own, your self-worth. Say it aloud, my silence is my strength. Now we arrive at the fourth Stoic lesson. Guard your time like treasure. Reducing yourself isn't only about words or people, it's also about how you spend your hours. When you give away your time carelessly, you're silently telling the world your life isn't worth protecting. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "It's not that life is short, it's that we waste much of it. Every moment you hand away is a piece of your existence you will never get back." Yet how often do we say yes out of obligation, habit, or fear of disappointing others, only to regret it later? And here's the pattern: when you treat your time as limitless, people will too. They'll call without boundaries. They'll ask for favors they could do themselves. They'll expect your constant availability. And if you always say yes, they'll never grasp the value of your presence because you've set the price too low. Defending your time doesn't mean becoming distant or unreachable. It means recognizing that saying yes to one thing always means saying no to something else. And too often what gets sacrificed is your peace, your growth, or your long-term goals. Stoicism reminds us to focus on what lies within our control, and your schedule, that's yours. You decide where your hours go, who they're shared with, and what they create. Here's a thought experiment. If someone handed you $86,400 in cash to spend in a single day, you'd be deliberate with every dollar. You wouldn't throw it away on strangers or meaningless purchases. Yet every day you're given 86,400 seconds of life, and most people spend them as though they're worthless. When you fail to guard your time, regret creeps in. You look back and realize months, even years, were spent on people or tasks that gave nothing in return. The Stoics would call this not just a mistake, but a moral lapse, not because you lived badly, but because you lived unconsciously. Protecting your time requires lines in the sand. It means becoming comfortable saying no without excuses. It means blocking out time for yourself and honoring it as you would a meeting with the most important person you know, because you are that person. And it's not just people who steal your time, it's habits. Endless scrolling, pointless arguments, agreeing to things you don't believe in. These are the thieves of life. They may seem small, 20 minutes here, an hour there, but together they build a life drained by distractions instead of enriched by purpose. Every moment you spend is a choice, an exchange of your life for something else. A scroll session here, a meaningless distraction there. Individually they seem harmless, but together they accumulate into a life handed away to things that never deserved it. The truth is simple. Once you start protecting your time, something profound shifts. People notice. If they see that you don't waste your own hours, they'll be less likely to waste them for you. Marcus Aurelius warned us, "Don't act as if you'll live forever. Death hovers above you. While alive and able, choose goodness." In modern terms, that means use your time wisely. Invest it in what nourishes you. Spend it on peace, on progress, on alignment with your values. Don't diminish yourself by being endlessly available to everything that pulls you away from your purpose. Before saying yes, pause and ask, if this were my final week, would I still give my hours to this? If the answer is no, step back. The more deliberate you are with your time, the more purposeful your life becomes. And when life feels full of meaning, you naturally stop entertaining the things that drain you. Time is more precious than gold because, unlike money, once it's gone, you can never earn it back. So hold it like treasure. Protect it fiercely. And if you're ready to live by this principle, declare it to yourself, "My time is priceless. I spend it with purpose." Now we arrive at the fifth Stoic lesson, say less. Let it matter more. One of the quietest ways we shrink ourselves is through excessive talking, speaking, just to fill silence, to appear clever, or to win approval. Words carry weight, but when scattered carelessly, they lose their impact. The Stoics knew this well. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, taught that words should serve truth and clarity, not ego or impulse. Epictetus reminded us we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason to listen twice as much as we speak. The more you talk, the more chances people have to misinterpret you, twist your message, or judge before truly understanding. Beyond that, constant chatter dulls your own voice. Think about the people you admire most. They're often the ones who listen intently, process deeply, and then speak with care. When they speak, you listen because they don't waste their breath. When you reduce how often you speak, your words begin to carry more influence. People start to associate your voice with intention, and that alone creates quiet authority. This isn't manipulation, it's mindfulness. Speaking less gives you space to pause, reflect, and strip away the unnecessary before responding. How many times have people damaged their credibility by reacting out of emotion, making promises they couldn't keep, or revealing things they later regretted? Stoicism teaches us the discipline of the pause, the space between stimulus and response where wisdom is born. And here's the paradox: when you speak out of nervous energy, you're often trying to prove your worth. You fill the air so you won't be overlooked. But this comes from fear of invisibility, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being forgotten. The truth: people remember silence more than chatter. They remember the one who stayed calm in tension, the one who didn't argue every slight, the one who didn't waste breath on gossip or endless explanations. This doesn't mean you close off or act superior. It means you let your stillness do the work. Your presence, your consistency, your actions, these become your voice. And when you finally do speak, your words will carry the weight of someone who respects their own voice. That's the kind of authority no amount of noise can ever create. When you remove the urge to constantly speak, something powerful happens. Your consistency, your presence, and your actions become your true voice. Speaking less is not weakness, it's discipline. And discipline is the clearest form of self-respect. It's a way of telling the world I don't need to spill everything about myself just to prove I matter. You'll see it in how I live and what I choose to share, and in the silence I protect. There's another gift that comes with restraint control. The less you reveal, the less others can twist or use against you. You decide what to share, when to share it, and with whom. That kind of sovereignty builds a quiet respect that no amount of loudness can buy. Marcus Aurelius gave us a simple filter: if it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. Imagine running every word you speak through that test. Your voice would become sharper, cleaner, and infinitely more meaningful. So how do you live this out? Start by pausing. When you feel the impulse to speak, ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this helpful? Then practice the art of listening, not just waiting to reply, but truly listening to understand. Replace filler talk with presence. Let your quiet confidence fill the room instead of noise. Remember, silence is not emptiness. It's a message. It's a choice. And here's the paradox: when you learn to speak less, but with purpose, you stop chasing influence and instead you attract it. People lean in not because you demand attention, but because your words carry weight. So don't shout to feel important. Let your silence walk into the room first, and when you do speak, let it carry the authority of someone who respects their own voice. If you're ready to embrace this, declare it to yourself now. My silence holds power. My words carry weight. Now let's come to the heart of this journey. Your worth is not negotiable. Diminishing yourself rarely happens in one dramatic collapse. It's in the quiet erosion, a forced smile here, an unnecessary compromise there, an extra effort for someone who wouldn't lift a hand for you. Slowly, these tiny surrenders add up until one day you barely recognize the reflection in the mirror. You feel faded, unseen, invisible. But the Stoics remind us real significance doesn't come from applause, prestige, or being the loudest in the room. It comes from fidelity to your values you refuse to break even when no one is watching. True worth is born from the unwavering decision to carry yourself in a way that silently declares, I know who I am. Each lesson we've walked through is a reminder that self-respect is the foundation of everything. If you want others to honor your presence, you must first honor it yourself. You must declare your own importance and then live every single day as proof of that decision, not for recognition, not for approval, but simply because your dignity is yours to protect. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have authority over your mind, not over external events." Realize this and you will find strength. That is the core of it all. You cannot force people to value you, but you can always choose whether you value yourself. And when you decide to never shrink again, the world has no choice but to adjust. So let this truth sink in deeply. Your worth is not something anyone else can give you, and it's not something they can take away. It is yours entirely, yours to guard, to embody, and to never betray. If this message resonates, share it with someone who's been giving too much of themselves away. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep walking this Stoic path together side by side here on Stoicism Breath.